So I don't know if you guys know, Oprah was in The Color Purple. Y'all know that part. Sorry, but she thought she didn't get the role because she thought she was too overweight. So she went to a fat farm and started to lose weight because she was like, I didn't get this role as Sophia because I was too big. And while she was on the fat farm, Steven Spielberg called her and said, "So I hear that you're on a fat farm. If you lose 1 pound, you could lose this role." She didn't realize the thing that she thought was working against her was actually working for her. One of the things. So, has there been a hidden blessing in your life? Has there been something that other people or you thought like I didn't get this because of this about me? This didn't happen for me because of this about me. When in actuality, it worked out because of that thing.
I feel, and I say this with the utmost humility and perspective. I'm not saying like, oh, like it's all about me. But I think every career choice that I've met, and I've realized that there was something about it that I didn't quite measure up at. So like at Adidas, I worked at Adidas and I couldn't draw as well as the other designers. And I could always feel that every season over season whenever we would create something. And I would just be like, okay, I can either improve as an illustrator or is this something else? Like, is there something about me that is being told that I need to take notice of? And I kind of had this revelation that, well, if I can't draw, then I could lead the people that are drawing. And because then that's kind of like the director role. And so then I kind of had that mindset built in. And then in my next role, I noticed like, oh, I'm not as great as animation as other people are. And I felt like that was a shortcoming. But then I realized, well, I guess I'm just going to have to be the leader of the animator and I can't be the animator. And I think that mindset helps me level up and just think of myself as like a director or like somebody at a director level, or I guess a more leadership role, when I can't necessarily execute those things, but I have the vision and the aesthetic to see if it looks good or not. But I can't do it doesn't mean that I'm not part of that process. And I think just that mindset and that shift helped me. So I feel like that is a little bit of a baby hidden blessing for me.
It's interesting, like growing up, even sometimes till this day, I kind of like envy people who know exactly what they want and they pick one thing and they stick with it. And for me, when I moved to LA, the thing that I picked was I'm solely focusing on acting. And there were these other things that I knew I could do, but I wasn't going to utilize them because my mindset was, let me focus on acting, and then I can dance and maybe dabble in like directing and utilize my illustration and all these other things. But I felt like if I try to do them all at once, there won't be this streamline of like I'm moving forward. Well, me focusing solely on acting, I went to probably hundreds of auditions, probably got like a handful, and through that I got discouraged. And over the quarantine, I said, all these gifts and these things that I have that are on the shelf, let me try to pull one off and see if I can do something with it, because nobody's checking for me for acting right now. And dancing, which for me is one of like, people won't believe it, but it is one of like my insecure points, because I don't feel like I should be farther as a dancer. Like I grew up in a dance studio, and she knows this, I can barely pick up other people's choreography. Like I'm in the back of the class struggling, but when it comes to me just making up a dance on the fly, I can do that like that. So I've been sharing this a lot lately. Like during quarantine, I just decided to start dancing and sharing that with the world. And this thing that's been on the shelf, honestly, collecting dust that I was low-key ashamed of, that I wasn't, the most confident in, has opened up a slew of other opportunities. So it's kind of been a hidden blessing that, these things have been on the shelf for a while, because they really weren't collecting dust. I think they were actually getting like richer and cultivating, because now, like wine, that new wine, new wine, yeah.
I would say my personality. I hated my personality. So I was raised in South Carolina from 5 years old up. And either you're the little gay dude, I wasn't masculine enough. And so I hated my personality. My personality has opened more doors with my gifts or intellect, and I will go and crush a job, but no one talks about the work that I've done as much as how I made them feel. Like I used to hate walking into jobs, and it happened for several different jobs where someone on that job would call me Sunshine. Somebody would be like, "Oh, there goes Sunshine," and like I would come in, not even like remember the Titan Sunshine, just like because I was so buzzed. I was like, "Hey guys, what's going on?" but I hated that about myself. And I wanted to, we had a whole discussion how even I started to wear a lot of black just so I didn't stand out because my personality was so colorful. Maybe that's why I don't want to be with a creative that's colorful. Maybe there's some deep-seated trauma here.
Healing.
Maybe that's what's happening. But I did, man, and I hated that about myself. So it's interesting to now be in front of the camera and people that know me are like, where's the dude that makes us laugh? Where's the dude that is bubbly? Where's the dude that can connect and just have a good time? Where I thought growing up meant becoming more serious. And don't get it twisted. When it's time to get serious, it's on and popping, and Allison can attest to that. Like when it's time to like run a meeting or something like that. But yeah, it's very interesting that people remember my personality and how I made them feel, even after all the hard work. That's the thing that they talk about the most.
One of my clients says I'm very earnest. I'm just a very like direct and honest person, and I don't like when I first stepped back into the industry, I realized on calls like I don't speak the lingo and I don't schmooze and I don't kind of fluff things up or like manipulate or play the games. I don't, and I thought that was something wrong with me, and I was like, oh, I need to learn this, but the reality is even now that I know it, I have zero desire. I want to tell you what it is, what it's not. I want to tell you if I think it's a good idea or not. I want to tell you why I don't or why I don't want to do it. I'm not going to be like, yeah, let's run that play and then never respond. That's not my MO. I'm going to hit you. Hey, I don't think this one's going to work. Thanks for reaching. You know what I mean? But like I want to be transparent and I want to be honest and forthcoming. So I think I struggled with that in the beginning of like, I don't know how to not just be super direct, and I thought it was an issue. But now I'm finding that clients and partners want to work with me because of that.
It's also hard to carry that burden because most of the time people like us, who are the people that will say the thing that other people are thinking, people start to look for us to be that in like meetings, and then they'll back off, and you're like, I'm not going to always take the bullet. Like
that part.
You turned around strong.
Because that is so real, and I'm not going to elaborate or go too deep into it, but yes.
No, it's hard. It's hard. Like being outspoken, standing up for the truth, saying the thing that other people won't say can become very lonely.
I don't want to steal anybody's, but I have to say these two resonated, like a combo of the two, for the fact that just the other day I was in a Lyft, and my Lyft was like, ping, you've got X amount. It was like over 100 5-star ratings in X amount of time, and they gave me a badge for it, and I was like, why is this important? I don't care, whatever. And then I got out of my Lyft that morning, and the Lyft driver tells me, you know what, I just feel like I got out of therapy. And I said, what do you mean? He was like, you are such a joy, like, just to be around. And that's something that is at the end of nearly every Lyft ride. And I take Lyft every other day. It's my means of transportation, y'all. So the reason I'm saying this is sometimes I'm not even like trying to start a conversation. I have my AirPods in. I'm like, leave me alone. I'm texting, and like somehow it's like always like, what do you do for a living? What is it? And me and this man started talking about where I used to live in Boyle Heights, and he lived up the street 30 years before. And we just started talking about the community, and it was great because through that we started talking about some issues that he wanted to heal through his family. And I was giving him some advice and upward feedback on how he could handle it and address it. So that's something that I personally felt like when I was young, I felt like I overshared too much. And I was like, man, I'm like a little too vulnerable too quick, went and sought help for, my own personal well-being. And I was like, oh, that's kind of a red flag for some people. Like, it's like, you need to chill, girl. But the other part is now I just kind of wait for someone to invite themselves into that space. And it's kind of like what I tell my parents, like, you give me a secret, I'll give you one of mine. Because, I don't want someone to feel like they're in an awkward position where they're just being vulnerable and then they're exposed to me and I'm not equally as exposed. So I would say my hidden talent is probably like my vulnerability or my willingness to be vulnerable with anybody who's willing to be as equally as vulnerable with me. Because through that we build connection and transparency, authenticity, and trust. And they're more inclined to, work with someone or follow someone that is equally as transparent.